Say what you will about gold, but it cannot be denied that our lust for the yellow metal has inspired some amazing social change throughout history. Just think of the wars, the discoveries, and even the scientific inquiry that has all been inspired by our insatiable hunt for gold.
This is where we dissolve gold of about 80 to 90%. Basically, it's in flake form, put in the reactor, we then pump it through filters into the second reactors. This second reactor with a gold in solution, we drop it out through there, filter it very carefully as gold sand.
For all that effort, you'd think bullion merchants like Bird & Co. would be raking it in. But the truth is that the margins they get are tiny, about 1%. And that's because their specialisation is all about refining non-standard pieces of gold, like jewellery, into purified bullion blocks for use as a financial measure. That's value added, but only for those who need cash more than they need jewellery. Luckily for people who have golden heirlooms when times get tough, there is no shortage of investors prepared to swap them cash for a chance to sit on these sparkly assets. But why are these investors holding on to an idle asset like gold when they could put their cash into something more productive, like investments in companies, people, or bonds? And how does that affect society? In some cultures where historically there's been a lack of trustworthy institutions to manage one's wealth, not investing in gold is often considered the larger risk. This has fueled a lingering love of the metal.
People have used it instead of cash. So basically what they've tended to do is gold is part of their savings, and it's if you've saved a pound notes, you're probably going to go and spend them, but if you've got gold, you're only going to liquidize that when you really urgently need to.
It's not so much the actual monetary value that it represents, it's more of what it means to give someone gold. It's like, this is my most precious thing that I have and I will share it with you.
For others, it's the very irrationality of investing in something so permanent and yet so frivolous, which makes gold such a decadent luxury.
Subconsciously, they're trying to preserve something, and it's their own life.
Laban Rooms taps into people's craving for immortality and status on a daily basis. He does so by taking ordinary items like IKEA stainless spoons and running them through an inexpensive process which can add up to £50 of additional value. It's a great margin and a shrewd business.
You know, I know nothing about the gold plating process. You know, what I know about is how to beautify things, how to add value to things. But in terms of like the actual chemical breakdown and, you know, what it does, you know, you're talking to the wrong person.
Laban Rooms may not care about gold's chemical properties, but for scientists like Andreas Seller, its molecular structure plays a key role in its desirability.
Gold is rather strange in that it's very, very inert. It's something that doesn't react easily with many things. In fact, you can warm it up and it doesn't really tarnish. And therein lies, in a sense, its beauty.
But gold's beauty can also be a curse. The polluting aspects of the extraction process are linked to its use of mercury and in some cases also cyanide. That can be a particular problem when the gold price ascends to levels which attract amateur prospectors.
They will wash the surrounding area with water. The mercury ends up in the streams. And if on top of that you use cyanide to purify your gold, you've got an even worse problem of dispersal both of cyanide and of mercury into the environment.
But the potential danger of gold goes beyond its polluting attributes. It also poses risks to the financial system itself. For sociologist Nigel Dodd, gold's financial attraction is actually a bit of a mystery. He thinks it's a poor form of money precisely because of its antisocial properties and propensity to encourage selfishness. Gold, he says, undermines the fundamental point of what money should be, a reflection of a society's capacity to share.
One of my favourite social thinkers about money was a guy called George Simmel, and he talked about how there's a kind of paradox with money, that it's a measure of everything and yet it's never still, it's always moving, it's never constant. A society wants to anchor itself to gold partly because it's difficult to cope with money's relativity. There is no still centre to money if you understand it properly.
It's a counterintuitive argument which even the greatest minds in history have struggled to communicate. Take Isaac Newton, the physicist and alchemist. As Warden of the Royal Mint at the Tower of London, he oversaw Britain's first flirtation with a gold standard. But the move inadvertently overvalued gold in Britain, leading to a financially destabilising run on the nation's silver reserves. Newton knew this would happen, but he couldn't convince the established elite that devaluing gold would be the better option.
I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people.
But for Nigel Dodd, there's another issue. Gold also expresses a wastage of human potential.
On the one side, gold clearly appeals to people as a way of displaying the fact that they've got more than they need. So there are very famous descriptions of gold as a form of superfluous wealth. So we love to gold plate our phones, our toilets. It's a great display jewel. You know, gold looks spectacular when you coat things in it. But there's also a really interesting psychoanalytic literature on gold, which suggests that actually gold is a form of sublimation, and that what gold really is human waste, to put it nicely, and that there's this connection between people that are very attached to their money, very attached to their wealth, and people that don't like to get rid of their own waste. So gold is effectively poo that's made to shine, is probably the politest way of putting it. And so in that sense, you know, if you're in love with gold, you're in love with your own poo.
While the bodily waste analogy may be extreme, what Dodd says about gold's antisocial role is strangely appropriate given its chemical profile.
What happens is that because the atom is so massive and there's such a huge charge in the nucleus, the outermost electrons tend to get pulled inwards, and therefore they're less available for bonding. Those electrons are maybe a little bit shy. They're kind of drawn in. They're rather more reluctant to get out there and do stuff. And so the result is that gold really doesn't react with very many things.
For sociologists, that's similar to the characteristics of those who prefer to trust in the tangible reality of a physical element over the more ethereal concept of my word is my bond, which depends on a trust in other people. The physicality in any case seems to be the differentiator. Gold is present in the here and now. It can be protected, controlled. And that's what makes it a safe haven and an anchor. But herein also lies the problem with using gold as a financial benchmark. Money isn't useful unless it's constantly flowing and lubricating social activity. Gold's physicality also makes it too easy to hoard.
If all gold was radioactive, then people wouldn't stockpile it anymore. It might become a bit more social, actually. It reminds me of the old theory of Gesell about demurrage, the idea that we need money to deteriorate more in order for it to work better.
For Gesell, the anarchist economist from Germany, the most important quality of money was its role as a medium of exchange. Money had to flow freely through the economic system if it was to be socially useful. Stagnation or hoarding of money, be it in gold or paper form, was economically damaging on the other hand. That ties in with the opinions of Adam Smith, the father of political economy. He used the analogy of a highway to explain gold's monetary role, arguing it's only when gold is deployed by the financial system that it can be transformed from dead stock into productive stock.
But I prefer to use the metaphor of a river or a stream, which has no value to anyone unless it's in constant flow. Because just like with gold, it's only those who understand that its true value lies in being a conduit for change and not a stagnant, unutilized pool, who can best reap the rewards of deploying banks to guide that force to where it's needed most. In short, gold is most valuable to society when it becomes a currency.
The story of gold, then, is one of society's desire to cling to something permanent, to convince ourselves, perhaps, that things just won't change for the worse. The paradox is, those who hoard gold also send the signal that it pays to be selfish. And that, inadvertently, destabilizes society and the social networks which create our wealth in the first place. If everyone was to do that, who knows, there might not be much prosperity left for any of us. Isabella Kaminska, Financial Times, London.